MacVoices is supported by ATTO, the power behind the storage. ATTO offers the most connectivity choices for macOS with a wide range of Thunderbolt and host bus adapters for high performance and low latency network storage connectivity. Visit ATTO.com to learn more. MacVoices is in San Jose for WWDC and AltConf. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I started having a discussion with Andrew of Textile about IPFS because I really wasn't that familiar with it, and I thought it's something you should know about too. So Andrew's going to tell us all about it. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you for talking to me. I'm excited.
No, this is great, and I'm sorry I missed your session on IPFS this morning, but I'm glad that we were able to catch up and you educated me a little. So let's start at the base level. What is IPFS?
Sure. Okay, so IPFS stands for the Interplanetary File System. It's a protocol, a peer-to-peer protocol in a network that enables applications and services to use the internet in a different way than HTTP does currently. How deep do you want me to go here?
I go through some of the security and what it does, and more importantly, why it's important.
Sure. Well, there's a handful of really significant pieces that make IPFS different than, say, HTTP or the way that we're normally using the internet or APIs. But one, just to give you an example that is sort of the root of a lot of the differences, is the way that it addresses internet data on the internet. So typically servers and applications use what's called location-based addressing. So you want to get, say, a JSON file, and what you'll have is a URL with a path and the file name. That's the location of that file. To get that file, you actually have to go through DNS, which is going to translate it to a server on the internet someplace. You're going to go to that server and you're going to ask it for the path and the file. And it's going to return it to you, hopefully. But there's a lot of problems with that model. There's link rot at the top. Maybe that file is gone. The server might be gone or down. Sunsetting applications and APIs happens all the time. And maybe the DNS doesn't resolve. Maybe it's being censored, which has been the case on the modern internet quite often. So if you look at Wikipedia in Turkey. In IPFS, it uses what's called content addressing. So instead of using the location of a file, you actually use the unique fingerprint of a file. So that same JSON file, you might create a SHA-256 hash of the file, which is unique. You know it's describing that file, and you request it from anybody else on the internet. So you don't request it from necessarily the server hosting it, but you'll request it from any other peer, and they know how to algorithmically route you to the person hosting or the server hosting that file.
Because of the hash.
Because of the hash, yeah. And that's another one of the really interesting, unique pieces of technology. There's this thing called the distributed hash table, which helps with that routing. So any server can make a best guess for where to push you next to ask for that file.
Okay, but it's still, the file still has to live somewhere on the internet. It's just you're getting at it through a different path.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot of really neat things that happen because of this setup, though. So the file does have to exist someplace. But in the case of, say, Wikipedia, so in Turkey, where they did censor it, there's now a copy of Wikipedia that exists on IPFS. It doesn't have to be Wikipedia that hosts that anymore because it's sort of a public resource. A lot of different people are hosting that data on IPFS peers, and I can request it and get that data from any one of them. So if any of them go offline or any of them stop hosting it, it's still available. At the same time, we have applications that we build at Textile where we help host it because nobody else will. We help host the data, and so then it's available on IPFS. And other nodes on the network will temporarily cache that data to help our users get it faster. But really, at the end of the day, somebody needs an incentive to host the raw data.
So from the end user standpoint, is there anything I have to do to take advantage of IPFS, or is it up to the developer to build it into their application?
Yeah, right now it's really at the developer layer, although there's a number of teams that work on Firefox plugins, and there's actually a JavaScript implementation of IPFS. So if you're a web developer, you could build it into an application on the web. As an end user, you need to go to a GUI where you can access something that is going to use IPFS underneath it. But there's a lot of examples of that now. Actually, I'll give you one example where you don't. There's the domain name services. So Cloudflare, I want my name, those sorts of services where you go and register a domain. Cloudflare has started supporting IPFS as one of the sources of data for your website. So now if you go to a website, you might actually be getting it through IPFS and just not realize it.
Okay. You before the interview, you were telling me though about some doctor-patient applications for this because of the privacy issues involved with in the U.S. Some of our regulations in the European Union, some of theirs.
Yeah, so that's a really great use case for this. This is a company called CareChain.io, and what they're really interested in is allowing patients and doctors to connect directly, whether that's conversations or actually exchanging medical data, where they don't want a server in the middle. You want to be able to chat with your doctor and maybe get an X-ray result, and you don't want that stored on a server someplace. So you want end-to-end encrypted, and you want to be able to do peer-to-peer as much as possible. And so IPFS is a really great sort of back end for making that happen.
So in that scenario, obviously, it sounds like obviously you can transfer a file. Can I do live video and audio to chat with my doctor?
Yeah, so there's some examples out there. I don't know the latest sort of best case for doing live video streaming, but there are people that work on it and have shown sort of early concepts of doing just that. Yeah.
Gee, I mean, it sounds intriguing because we all are using all these services, and all this data is passing through those services, and the less reputable are skimming some of it off the top for themselves and to sell. And this sounds very attractive. It's something I may want to look at to say, okay, is this app IPFS enabled? I guess is that the proper term. And how do I check that? How do I find out? It's just a matter of it's somebody stating that.
Yeah, right now I think the easiest way is apps and companies are going to really write that on the front page, because it is still a pretty small community of in the bigger picture of things. It's a pretty small community of applications that are building things already that you can use, and so most of them are pretty transparent about the fact that that's what they're doing. It's a really exciting space, though, and so that's what we were here to talk about today is both IPFS, just introducing it to a lot of new iOS developers, and then sharing some of the work that Textile's been doing to make it run natively on mobile devices. So the idea there is then mobile applications can use it, and you wouldn't even know. For you, it'll work just as well as any app that you've ever used that uses a normal API or a normal location-based server model. But we'll use IPFS behind the scenes. And yeah, we're really excited. It creates a couple new models for how you interact with data in apps, and it allows, like the Wikipedia example again, it allows multiple parties to collaborate on who's hosting and who's curating that data. So for personal data that you care about having sort of a long lifespan, maybe your photos, maybe even your location data where you want it to be encrypted, but you want to keep it on your own, apps can actually collaborate with you now. So you can have copies of that on your own home devices or on different services that you trust.
So where does Textile fit into this? You're developing the SDKs. Obviously, you have to stay in business in some fashion.
Yes.
So what's your business model look like for the development of those SDKs?
Yeah, so, well, Textile, our mission is actually to change that model of personal data on the web. We started the company with the idea that the way that personal data was being treated by a lot of the applications wasn't the way we wanted the future of technology to go. And so we were looking for ways to start exploring what new models could actually emerge. And that's when we found IPFS and content-based addressing and the possibility that a network like that enables. But right now, what we're really focused on is just making that really easy for a lot of new developers and a lot of new applications to adopt while we sort of figure out what business models could emerge. So we're early days, though.
It's fascinating. It's really interesting that you're trying to build a company that early on something like this. And it seems like you're betting on almost a sure thing for lots of reasons, not the least of which is the security of the protocol.
Yeah, I mean, it is early days, but you see a couple of different subsets of the communities that are signaling really fast adoption of this protocol and really fast sort of excitement about what it offers. And so one microcosm of that is Ethereum. My company doesn't work on Ethereum directly, but Ethereum has a very big active developer community, and one of the primary tools that they're using to store and transfer data with smart contracts is actually IPFS. And so it's being adopted there. There's a lot of other big applications that have, many users. There's a great one, actually, not streaming video, but static video. There's a project called DTube, which is essentially a video viewer like YouTube, but it's over IPFS. And the difference about their model is instead of YouTube, like YouTube, where you put your videos in the YouTube servers and they host them, you actually host your own videos. So you put them on your own IPFS server, wherever you want that, and then DTube offers the UI that you can actually get those videos to other people. Yeah.
For the folks that don't know, what is Ethereum? I want to make sure we didn't just gloss over that.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. That was a quick one. So Ethereum is a blockchain project. It's a cryptocurrency, a little bit like Bitcoin in that it is a cryptocurrency and a blockchain, but the blockchain works fundamentally differently than Bitcoin. The whole idea behind Ethereum is to have very flexible smart contracts that can actually run complicated applications inside of them. So every time the sort of blocks are executed in Ethereum, the application can be executed. And so that can mean transactions, the basic idea, but it can also mean the storage, the lookup, the search, the exchange of data, and other sort of other primitives of building an app. And so the developer community is building real applications to do, financial products or user interfaces or games that are all decentralized on Ethereum.
It's been a really fascinating conversation. I appreciate you taking the time because it opens the door to something that some of us may have heard about but really didn't quite understand why it's important or how it would work. And I think at least we have a little better understanding now. And I'm sure because it's a developing thing that there will be refinements and changes to it as we go.
Yeah, that's why I was really excited to talk here. I had a packed room. People are definitely very curious about this sort of new world that's emerging. And I know it's early days, but I think that we're going to see some exciting things happen over the next year or two.
For the folks that want to learn more about what you do, what is the website?
So we're just at textile.io.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Folks, we'll have more from AltConf and WWDC in San Jose. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.